Good morning. This is 1 in 36, a presentation from Anderson Center for Autism, celebrating their centennial in 2024. 1 in 36 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And today I am very happy to have on the show brothers, Daniel and Nick Caridi. And they're here to talk about Kibu and KibuHQ.com. So Daniel and Nick, I'm going to welcome you. Thank you for being on the show. And why don't we start off with you, Daniel? I just ask you both to kind of introduce yourselves and give us a little background about who you are.
Thank you for having us on to talk with you today. A little background on me. I'm Daniel Caridi. I'm one of the co-founders of Kibu. I'm the CEO of it. And it's just a really cool project that I started as volunteering like 5 years ago and has just been a business now for a little over 2 years. But I can get into that founding story in a little bit, but really excited to be here and thank you.
Thanks. Nick, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Nicolas Caridi. I joined on the team of Kibu about 6 months ago now because I had my own background in marketing and my own various ventures. And then Kibu started growing so quickly in the past 6 plus months that Daniel needed all hands on deck. So I joined the team and I'm helping in the marketing efforts and the partnership efforts. So very excited to be here as well and excited to be on the Kibu journey. It's been a very eventful one, which I'm sure you'll hear about soon.
Yeah, we're going to hear all about it because you're going to tell us all about it. Thank you both. I had the pleasure of talking to you, a couple weeks ago, learning a little bit about Kibu, and I was really intrigued. There's so much cool stuff going on in the field of autism, ranging there's advocacy efforts, there's research efforts, and then there's, various types of service provision. But I think that, and this is something that I think is one of the better, sides of going through a pandemic, is that what we all learned was the power of broadening your impact through the use of, virtual connectivity and digital platforms. So that really spoke to me when you guys were telling me about Kibu. But when you got into really so much of it, like especially the range of offerings and how easy it is for people to participate in Kibu and who's involved. And we're going to hopefully hear from an additional guest in a little while, who's one of your instructors and a real leader at the team. But for now, which one of you could just kind of start us off with an overview of what Kibu is? And again, for our listeners, remember, you can get more information by visiting the website, which is Kibu, KibuHQ.com. But one of you who can give us an overview. All right, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I can jump in and give the overview of what we offer now. So Kibu now kind of has two sides to the platform. One is the content side and one is an admin tooling side. I think the content side is what's really interesting though, because what we offer on that is live streams every single day, 1 to 2 every single day. And those are really engaging. Like the coach actually shouts you out, will shout out a program. It's really interactive. Everyone loves hearing their own name on these live streams. Yeah. We have 350 plus on-demand classes that we've filmed ourselves. And that's ranges in different categories like recreational topics like dance and yoga and mindfulness and cheerleading and boxing, you name it. There's life skills classes that either are community integration based or just building your own personal independence based life skills. And then there's also job development classes that we've added on. And they all have corresponding lesson plans in case a caregiver or a staff member wants to help deliver these services, or an individual can just join on their own. And yeah, just really engaging classes. Like we have some celebrity guest coaches. So we have boxing with Mike Tyson and dancing with Billy Blanks Jr. So you won't find these anywhere else. And it's all made for all abilities. So everyone's welcome to join on.
Thank you, Daniel. And yeah, that's one of the things I remember from our earlier conversation that, and this speaks so much to what I end up talking about with so many people throughout the course of my days, is that rather than designing something that was really singularly and solely focused on supporting individuals with IDD and other, behavioral challenges, any other special needs, you designed something that potentially has benefit for everyone, but also has features that are inherently going to maybe be more welcoming, more accessible for somebody who's just not ready to join. I mean, I myself included, I'm not ready to join in to a dance class in person. Not for me, but like, could you get me to do it online? Probably would be a good first step, especially if it's, run by somebody as well known and skilled as Billy Blanks Jr. Boxing with Mike Tyson, I think, would probably scare most people. So probably the idea of doing that virtually is just a generally safer idea for most people. But I just think it's great that you've been able to also tap into this, the marketing aspect, that's very unique, being able to take these classes and like interact with people who you have seen elsewhere and aren't just sort of, somebody sort of volunteering the little time that they might have to get in there. Was there an inspiration for Kibu that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah. And that goes back to like the founding story and why we even exist. Mm-hmm. And it was actually one of my friends, who's my co-founder now, Gage. He invited me to a volunteer fitness class it was actually in Darien, Connecticut. So not that big of a place. It was for 5 folks with an IDD, where I would just say it's like the most ridiculous class ever. We're throwing dodgeballs at each other. We were dancing, we were singing, we were just having so much fun. I fell in love with it, fell in love with the people, doing it every single week. And then what happened was COVID came around and the parents stopped bringing their kids to the gym anymore. And I was talking with Gage and I was like, maybe we can try doing it on Zoom and see if it works out. And within a couple of weeks, it went from those 5 original people to 20 to 50 to 100, where it got to, I mean, I'm looking at a Zoom screen right now, but it got to a point where there was a whole grid of people's faces. Everyone's moving and dancing and smiling and laughing. And I was so blown away because I was talking to some of the parents on the call and they were saying they were local to the area. And they were saying, yeah, they weren't joining the classes beforehand because there was transportation issues or caregiver costs or any other reason to
Right.
That made it difficult to bring people to activities. I was like, well, maybe we could bring the activities to them. And that was just the initial idea. Then we started working with more disability providers and then adding in the life skills and the job development classes. Then we got some celebrities and then we did the whole admin tooling side and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where then I needed to pull Nicolas in for some support besides a whole other section of the team.
And the cool thing too is that all the videos or most of the videos are recommendations or like requests from individuals or their families or disability providers themselves. So we're not like a boring curriculum group kind of just brainstorming and throwing out whatever content we could think of. This is really is a group effort just produced by us. So we hear what people want to see or to learn, and we're the ones who actually make it and produce the videos and put it on one platform. But it is really cool to see, like, every week we get requests from individuals or a family or disability providers. So it is cool to see that process happening real time.
That's I think that's awesome. And I love the organic growth of it. I love how it, the founding story, obviously the family connection. I think it's cool, when brothers reach out to each other for support and you just kind of jump right in. That's awesome, Nick, that you did that. But also just the idea that families started to give you information, which you then welcomed and kind of built on. That's such a huge thing, especially for families who are primary caregivers for their loved one with IDD or other disabilities and challenges. Often we hear from those families that their voices are not heard. People aren't listening. It's more about fit yourself into my model. I don't want to adapt to what you need. And I think the world is changing for the better. I think society is really shifting their thoughts and conversation around that. But we need more and more and more of that to serve as models in order to continue that positive trend. So I really appreciate, on behalf of all the families that I know through my work and personally, that just the listening to that commentary. And it was sort of like through COVID, people started to share with you that it's not just the pandemic and the fact that places are closed. Maybe it opened your eyes a little bit as sort of young entrepreneurs also to the idea that there are so many other reasons why somebody raising a child with autism is not leaving their house. And it has very little to do sometimes with what we might think of it. It has more to do with because we're going to be asked to leave 10 minutes into the class.
That COVID happening made Daniel aware, just because there was those 5 people that weren't able to show up to the class anymore. But as soon as Daniel opened up the Zoom classes, seeing 100 people, that 95 people were held back because of all these other reasons outside of COVID. It recognized that we were in this tiny little area of Darien, Connecticut. There's people in every single state that need something like Kibu.
It's awesome. I love it. I know we're coming close to our time that we need to take a quick break. But before we literally have a minute, I just want to make sure that our listeners understand that there is a whole other side to Kibu, which is the administrative tooling side. And in like 1 minute, can one of you sort of sum that up? Because I think we're going to have another person join us in the second half of the show.
Sure, yeah. So the administrative side is kind of all the attendance, note-taking, goal tracking, reporting, basic medical information, everything that a disability provider typically needs to bill through Medicaid or show backup support that they're delivering support services, whether that be to Medicaid or to family members, all in one system in a very beautiful, simple way that hasn't been really done before by legacy systems.
I think that's great. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Yeah, we like to say that we're a startup dedicated solely to making disability providers' lives easier. Not only that, but then helping out the content side too.
Yeah, I think it's great. And it's very much needed. Some of the things that you shared with me when we met the first time too were that the program really works for both small, like really small companies, maybe startups, maybe, single providers, who are starting their own business, all the way up to some really large companies. So check it out. I just will do a shout out also that getting in touch with Nick and or Daniel. You guys did a great job educating me about Kibu and showing me like a, kind of a mock up and going through the programs. So I would encourage our listeners to reach out to you if they're interested, because it's one of those things that's easier to understand when you see it and talk directly to you guys. So thank you. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, though, we'll be back with Daniel and Nicolas Caridi and talking more about Kibu. And remember, check it out at kibuhq.com. This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and we'll be right back.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy. You know what? We should make an emergency communication plan. That way we're ready this year. At my dorm, we have emergency kits for earthquakes and wildfires, but I'm sure there's something more local I can send you with a link.
Okay.
Smart.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Somewhere, there's a river rushing through the woods while someone rushes through their day. There's a mountain looking up at the sky while someone looks down at their phone. A trail waiting to be walked while someone waits for a latte. This world is full of somewheres waiting for someone just like you. So go see yours at 154 national forests and 20 grasslands. And to learn more, visit nationalforest.org. The National Forest Foundation. See your somewhere.
And now, 1 in 36 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking with Daniel and Nick. I keep calling you Daniel, Dan, Nick, Nicolas. I don't know if you have preferences, but the Caridi brothers of Kibu, and it's a really great platform. It's very unique, I think. I have not heard, until I met you guys, I've not heard of a platform that does the content and also offers this sort of relatively easy to navigate data collection and goal setting admin tool, which a lot of people who probably are listening to the show may not always think about. We're always looking for services. We're always looking for supports, for opportunities, for resources. I think it's a good opportunity to remind people that in order to provide a lot of those services and supports and resources, many professional providers, if not all professional providers, also have a requirement and a professional duty, but also a, legal responsibility to keep track of those goals and do things like contemporaneous note taking, where you're basically writing up how somebody, what somebody engaged in within minutes of them finishing that activity, all for things like Medicaid billing, et cetera, which I was just very impressed that while you were doing this, you were also researching and deeply understanding how important that is. Was that something that you always planned to do, or did you realize partway through that would be really helpful and maybe give you kind of a great marketing edge for this?
That's something we figured out along the way. So as we were rolling with the content and just working with these disability providers, we noticed how tough of a job it was for DSPs just to be delivering services, coming up with fresh content, everything that they have to do on a day-to-day basis. And by us adding in lesson plans and the content, they were so appreciative on that end, just to have like a resource like Kibu to lean on. But then the more I saw, I actually went to a couple of disability providers and understood how they operated and saw some of the flows that they were taking on the administrative tooling side. And it just looked like a nightmare, where it just didn't make sense to me. I was like, there's just so many ways this could be improved. So we just started taking little steps where first we added an attendance and we added a note taking and just did it in a way that was for the disability providers, for the DSPs on their own, to be able to deliver better services. So things as simple as writing notes. We made a mobile friendly platform so you could just speak into the phone and it'll actually record the note for you there. Whereas otherwise, you'd have to be delivering services, then remember what you did, and then type it into a computer later on.
Yeah. And didn't you do something also with translations from foreign languages?
Translation. So a lot of DSPs, English is their second language. So we do it where you could speak in your native language and then it'll automatically translate and switch it into English and then break it down into the note template that you set up. So all those simple things. On our side, it's simple, but just hasn't been done in other systems before. And automatic note reminders. So at a certain time every single day, it'll notify the administrators whether all the notes are complete, and it'll show it very visually and very beautifully. So it takes a lot of human error out of the equation when it's such an important thing to pass these Medicaid audits, because these places could get fined hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, depending on if there's a 5% or a 10% error rate on the notes. It didn't make sense to me how there weren't parameters built in to make sure that it didn't happen.
Right. There's this thing called extrapolation where those, an audit can turn into something much bigger, which, is fair. It's all designed to be supporting the individual the way that they really need to be supported and to be accurate with what you're providing. But I just think it's a very cool thing that you found a way to incorporate that, because arming DSPs, direct support professionals, some of my very favorite people, in their ability to do their job, I believe at least that's going to lead to better outcomes, that the services that then they're providing without all the weight of the paperwork and the documentation being, so cumbersome. Usually maybe that means that they can focus a little bit even more on what they're probably most passionate about. Right. Not that many people are super passionate about Medicaid paperwork. Not that I said,
for these bigger providers, there's also some of them have one service for this, one service for this, one service for this. So we're just trying to put it all under one umbrella. So it's a lot easier for other providers to handle.
I think it's great. And I, like I said, I encourage our listeners to go to Kibu, KIBUHQ.com for more information, and definitely set up a time to meet with you guys. We have just gotten a new guest on the podcast, surprise guest.
Hello there.
Hi. So I'm very pleased to announce that Billy Blanks Jr. has joined the podcast. Hello. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for letting me join on. I was driving, so I was like, I'm going to come on. Say hello.
That's awesome. I so appreciate it. We have about 6 minutes left in the interview, and I know that you're one of the instructors and a leader at Kibu. And my name's Eliza Bozensky. We haven't met, but it's great to meet you. And
nice to meet you.
I would love to hear. We talked to Nick and Dan a few times about Kibu overall and kind of the founding story and their backgrounds. But maybe from your perspective as an instructor and as someone who obviously made the choice to get involved on a leadership level, tell us about your involvement and what you love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan found me. I was doing an event in Greenwich, Connecticut, and he found me there and told me about the company. And of course, I thought, wow, this is a brilliant idea. I've been working with people with disabilities for probably 20 plus years. Don't want to age myself, but and so when he told me the idea, I thought it was awesome, to come on as the president and helping with the production and kind of being the face of the company. And so it was something for me that I thought was so special because we started off with just fitness. It was fitness and dance and, all the different stuff that I'm sure he's already told you in his interview. And then when we started to see that it was really helping people, they were asking for more. So we added in life skills, job development, and all these different things to the platform. And for me, it's been probably the most enriching thing I've done in my life. I truly love being a part of the company. It's the easiest thing to talk about because we all love what we're doing. And the team that we have is so dedicated to it that it comes through with what we're doing. You're not getting just content that we're slapping up there. We're taking the time to really find out what's needed, and then creating that stuff. And so it's been a pleasure to really be a part of something that is so important,
I do know. Honestly, I'm the Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And, but I was telling Dan and Nick, I also lived in Fairfield County, Connecticut for years and was a teacher there. And I think we know probably at some point, if we ever got together, we probably know some of the same people, just because it's not too big of an area. Yeah. But so I work with, families primarily, and supporters of their loved ones with autism. And Anderson serves really a profoundly challenged population, mostly behaviorally complex individuals, with many of whom communicate in a non-vocal way, but all of whom, have passions around dance, music, art, activity, sports, are becoming more independent every day with their life skills. And some of whom are, volunteering in the community based on some pre-vocational and vocational opportunities they've had in our children's program. We have some adults in our adult program who are, working part-time. And it's so I do totally have an appreciation for not losing sight of this large part of the population that can just, in many cases, to be, I guess, fair, inadvertently left out of sort of mainstream opportunities. I don't think that there's a huge number of, people saying, no, we don't want you to join us at the gym or join us at the dance studio. But we were talking before you came on, Billy, about the process of learning from those families and that the parents, the caregivers directly about there's all these reasons why we don't come out. And a lot of it is because I had bad experiences in the past and just can't do it. I can't be this exhausted and tapping out myself every day and also then be asked to leave if I finally can encourage my child or my loved one to go out into the community, just to be told that they can't be there, because they're they're doing their stimming or they're just, maybe need a little more space than somebody in a different type of class. So what are some of the biggest takeaways for you now that you've been involved and as president of the company? Aside from me, when you're telling somebody who really doesn't know anything about Kibu, what lights you up? Like, what's your favorite story? I mean,
there's several things that I know when I used to teach, I did have the experience that you're talking about where I had a student, his name was Jonah, and him and his mom used to come to the class. And sometimes if he was stemming or if he did need the extra space, it was great because in the beginning I could see people getting uncomfortable. And then when they would see me just learning how to work with him and to make him comfortable in the class, and everybody started to relax. And so what I love about Kibu is, again, like we said, we started with fitness, and then to have somebody come in and to hear parents go, oh my God, I'm sure they've probably told you about Karen, who's one of the people that used our videos and now is in our videos, helping teach, you know what I mean? So he's somebody that didn't know how to go to the grocery store, had never, he's older, but hadn't used a debit card. And when his dad sat down with us and said, do you know what it means that my son now leaves the house, crosses the street, goes to the Starbucks and uses a card, and we have a video for crossing streets, a video for using a debit card, all of those things when they actually are helping somebody. And then to now have him be in the videos, it's so enriching and so exciting to us, to see that we're actually having participants that have used the videos now in them. Even participants, we just did the Tamron Hall show and we had people who've used the videos that are now on the show with us. You know what I mean? So it's been such an incredible full circle thing to see it, because I do feel like this population gets left out of a lot. And like you said, it's not always because it's a choice, but just people don't think, oh, maybe they can't do this. And it's so great including them and showing, no, they actually can do it. And it's so important to show them that their opinion matters, that they, it's just something that's so awesome to me, Yeah.
I do. And I'm thrilled that you guys came on today to talk about it. And I really want to encourage again our listeners to check out Kibu HQ. So that's Kibu, Kibu, HQ is in headquarters.com. We are basically out of time, and I'm sorry to say that because I know that you guys could go on and tell more stories, but I do totally get what you're saying, Billy, about the idea of somebody learning something from what you're giving them, what you're offering, and then utilizing it. And then the real full circle is the wanting to come back and then help others learn what they just learned. That's that's pinnacle teaching, learning, goal reaching. And I love everything about that. So thank you so much for taking the time. This is Team Kibu. This is Billy Blanks Jr. and Dan and Nick Caridi, Caridi. Sorry, guys. And this is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. Thank you guys for being on the show. And please remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 36, a weekly presentation from Anderson Center for Autism, celebrating their centennial in 2024. Join them for another edition of the show next weekend.